Yesterday, this law firm lost 15 hours. Not to a mistake, not to a bad hire, not to anything dramatic. They lost it to phone calls. Now, this might sound silly, but their intake coordinators spent 90 minutes on one call asking questions. Things like, what happened? When? Who saw it? Do you have documentation? And then she then hangs up the phone. The phone then rings again, and another 90 minutes for her are absolutely gone. But while she's on that second call, 3 other calls get a busy signal, and those clients book with competitors. A qualified lead calls at 5:30 p.m., gets a voicemail, and calls the next firm who does actually answer. Now that's pretty much a $50,000 case gone for this law firm. And by 6 p.m., 15 hours are gone, and 6 cases went to competitors. Now, here's the part that actually does matter, right? Today, she doesn't spend a single minute on intake because one voice AI system handles every call simultaneously. 8 a.m., the AI answers. 8:15 a.m., another call, AI handles that too. 5 calls at lunch, all answered. 5:30 p.m., answered. Saturday, answered. And that intake coordinator, she's evaluating cases, following up with the clients, actually practicing law. The managing partner said his team experienced the biggest sigh of relief they've ever felt before. 15 hours back every single day for their team. I'm Kevin from Visionaire AI, and we build voice AI systems. Now, I know that you're thinking there's absolutely no way an AI can handle the complexity of a real legal intake, especially not one of 40 to 90 minutes. I thought the same thing before we built this system for this employment law firm, right? Their intake coordinator was spending 60 minutes to 100 minutes per case, conducting these calls manually. They had a whole team every single day. That's pretty much 10 to 15 hours of staff consumed daily, on a daily basis, just collecting information that can be done automated, right? So they're not spending this time evaluating cases. They're not spending this time signing clients, just asking questions and taking notes. That's all they're doing, right? So we built an AI system that could do it for them. Here's what they were dialing with. And let me know if this sounds a bit familiar to you as well, down in the comments. Employment law cases are brutal when it comes to detail. You need a timeline of every incident with the exact dates, names, and contact info for every single witness. Specific quotes of what was said, word for word, documentation of every email, text, and performance review, medical records if there's emotional distress involved, financial damages, calculations, evidence to HR complaints or retaliations. And you can't just skip questions and hope for the best. If you miss one critical detail, you won't realize the case is completely unviable until you've already burned the hours on it. But here's where it gets worse. These intake calls were taking so long that they became the bottleneck, strangling the entire firm's growth. They'd run advertising campaigns and get qualified leads calling in, but those leads would just sit in queue for hours, or they'd call after 5 p.m. and get voicemail. Or even the intake coordinator would be so exhausted from 3 consecutive 90-minute calls that she'd rush through the 4th one and miss critical information that could make or break the case. And here's what the managing partner told us directly. He said, "Our sales representatives strongly disliked conducting lengthy intake interviews, and it was impacting morale and efficiency in our law firm. So therefore, the problem wasn't just operational, it was killing team culture, destroying case quality, and completely stopping revenue growth." That's when they called us. Now let's begin looking at this at a much bigger scale, right? Because we need to run into these numbers. So let's go ahead and do that, right? If your intake coordinator makes $50,000 a year plus benefits, that's about $65,000 in total cost. Break that down and you're paying $31.25 per hour at 15 hours per day spent on intake. And that's pretty much equivalent to $121,000 annually in just direct labor costs of a person just asking questions and then getting answers. But that's not the real cost. The real cost is opportunity cost. While your intake coordinator spends 90 minutes collecting information on a case that might not even be viable, they could be evaluating 5 other cases, following up with signed clients, coordinating with attorneys on active matters, or actually practicing law if they're a paralegal. And then there's the case where you never even get to see that because they never get the time for it. So the leads that call in at 6 p.m. or on a Saturday morning don't leave voicemails. They just scroll to the next firm on Google and call them, and that firm signs them. Therefore, while you're losing $120,000 in direct labor costs, you're also losing $300,000 to $500,000 in cases that went to competitors who had a better intake availability. That's where the hidden costs of manual intake come from, and it's pretty much bleeding your firm dry every single day because of it. So here's what we built for them. We use something called a warm transfer protocol. Let me walk you through the exact framework of how it works. When someone calls, a real human receptionist answers. That human touch at the front end matters. So we keep it there, and they spend 2-3 minutes basically getting some basic information, name, phone number, what type of case it is, quick check to make sure it's in your practice area. And then the person spends 2 to 3 minutes collecting basic demographic information. Things like name, contact info, type of case, and a quick qualification to make sure it's within the firm's practice area. Then comes the magic, right? The receptionist says something like, "Thank you so much for that information, Sarah. What I'm going to do now is connect you with our intake specialist who's going to walk you through all the details of your case." This usually takes around 45 to 60 minutes, and they'll ask every specific question to make sure that you understand everything and make sure that we understand everything on our end as well. Does that work for you? The client says yes, and they're transferred to the AI agent. But here's the key. The AI already has all the context from that first conversation. Now the AI takes over, and here's where it gets really, really powerful. While the AI is conducting this 87-minute conversation, it's simultaneously populating the CRM with structured data. Every single answer is being categorized, tagged, and organized in your CRM. So the incident timeline with dates, witness names, and contact info, evidence documentation lists, supervisors and manager names, HR complaint history, medical records, damage calculation inputs. By the time this 87-minute call ends, the attorney has a complete intake summary waiting in their dashboard. They had 10 to 15 hours of staff time recovered on the daily, 24/7 intake availability, so no lost leads, 100% data capture with 0 loss, and staff focus on case evaluation and client service. Now that is what they meant by sigh of relief. The managing partner mentioned that's real because their intake coordinators aren't spending 15 hours a day on the phone anymore. Now they're spending their time on reviewing AI-generated intake summaries, evaluating case viability, following up with signed clients, coordinating with attorneys, and actually using their legal knowledge. Here's the part where clients care if they're heard, right? If their information is captured correctly, and if they are actually treated with respect. The AI does all of these 3 for them, right? So here's what I want to offer you. If you are a law firm spending hours every day on intake calls, whether it's employment law, personal injury, I want to do a free intake process audit for you. And here's what that means. We'll get on a 30-minute call, and I'll walk you through a time analysis where I calculate exactly how many hours you're losing to intake, a cost calculation showing the real financial impact, both direct and opportunity costs, right? A capacity assessment to identify your current bottleneck and ceiling. This is going to be a custom blueprint where I design an AI system specific to your practice area, and an ROI projection showing what you'd save and what you'd gain with this system. This is basically completely free for you guys, so there's no pressure in moving forward. You'll walk away with a clear picture of where you stand and what's possible. And then, just so you guys know, right, the link is in the description below. If you want to click it, do so. If you don't want to click it, no worries at all. I'm just giving you guys what you guys are here to learn about voice AI in this specific situation. Now I know some of you are thinking, this sounds too good to be true, or about specific concerns, so let me address most of the common questions that we do get. So the first thing is, what if the AI makes a mistake? And that's a great question. Here's how we handle that. First, every conversation is recorded and stored. Not just the output, the entire conversation. Second, we built in a fallback system. If the AI encounters something, maybe it doesn't understand or gets confused, right, it seamlessly transfers to a human intake coordinator with full context, giving them a full summary of everything, of what's already been discussed, and then transferring it over. Treat it like a worm transfer, right? The second question that I usually get is this compliant with bar ethic rules, right? Another great question. And the answer is yes. With proper implementation, the AI never provides legal advice. It only collects information. The intake explicitly states that this is an intake specialist, not an attorney, and that it is a virtual assistant. So all data is encrypted and stored on secure servers that you'll have access to. And obviously, the system is configured to comply with confidentiality requirements in every jurisdiction that we do work with. Now, the third question that I usually get is, won't this hurt our brand or client relationships? I get why you'd think that. It is AI, but here's what we have found. Clients actually prefer a thorough, patient intake over a rushed human intake. They'd rather spend 90 minutes with an AI that captures everything correctly than 45 minutes with a human who's clearly in a hurry or forgets to ask about key witnesses. Now, this does depend on who the person is, but just do keep in mind that AI is always there no matter what story you are trying to tell, right? Or the person actually taking the intake. And remember, there's still a human at the beginning of the call. The warn transfer protocol maintains that personal touch while automating the administrative work. So look, I'll cut to the chase, right? I understand if you're skeptical. I was too before we actually built this entire thing, but the results speak for themselves. Law firms went from being capacity constrained to having unlimited intake bandwidth. Their staff went from burnout to job satisfaction, and their managing partner can finally scale at the firm without hiring 3 more intake coordinators. 15 plus hours recovered daily, 15 plus intakes processed daily, 100% data captured, and $200,000 plus in billable hour time savings annually. Unlimited scalability here. That's what we're currently doing. And if you want the same results, the link is in the description below. Book your free intake process audit, and I'll show you exactly how this would work for your firm. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.